Eric here for the weekly news recap. Okay, let me drop that audio right down. A bit loud. Okay, Eric here for the weekly news recap for September 12th to the 18th, 2022. So we'll jump in. This week there were quite a few game events, so we'll start at the beginning. We had the Nintendo Direct showing off some new games. So Fire Emblem Engage is the first one we'll take a look at. Fire Emblem Engage is the next Fire Emblem, basically. Tactical RPG, played from isometric point of view. It's kind of pointed out, at least a couple of people have kind of pointed out, that the main character kind of looks like a VTuber, if we can get to them. I think it's mostly just because of the red and blue hair that people have seen. A lot of different anime VTubers. That being said, the game looks like gorgeous, right? This is beautiful. Anyway, the conceit for this game is that you can summon in Fire Emblem characters from previous games. So it does remind me a little bit of Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which had a similar idea in that it was a Persona style turn-based role-playing game. But the Persona, if you like, were Fire Emblem characters. So it does have this kind of combination where one character from the Fire Emblem Engage cast is essentially paired up with a classic, we'll say, Fire Emblem character. So this main character and Marth, for instance, are paired up, and there's a few other instances of different characters having other classic Fire Emblem people attached to them. But yeah, it looks interesting. I'm not particularly into Fire Emblem myself, though, so probably doubt on that one. However, it is due for release pretty soon, so January 20th, 2023 is when we'll get to see that, or when you will get to play that. It Takes Two is coming to Nintendo Switch November 4th. We're going to skip a couple of these. Fatal Frame, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. So this is a Fatal Frame game that never was released in Western markets. I don't know what I'm trying to go with there. But yeah, this is a Fatal Frame style game. Not even Fatal Frame style, it is a Fatal Frame game where you take pictures of ghosts and that hurts them because they hate that shit. They hate being on Instagram and TikTok. Stop taking my picture. But whatever, you take a selfie with a ghost and it hurts them. That's kind of the gist of it, of the Fatal Frame games. But yeah, this one never came out in the West. Previously, Maiden of Blackwater, I believe, also never came out in the West. So it's good to see that they're, pushing these games out now into the Western market and more people can get a chance to play them. Whether I will or not, I don't know. It's spooky shit, It's spooky, scary times. I don't know, maybe. But that won't be until early 2023, so that's probably February, March, something like that. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I'm skipping right past because I don't want to be spoiled, but there's more DLC thing coming for that. SpongeBob, The Cosmic Shake, the next SpongeBob platformer game, will be out next year. It's also coming to the Switch. Fitness Boxing of the North Star had to have been a pretty crazy tone shift, really, because we were expecting Fist of the North Star game. Okay, grand, fine. Another one. But no, it's a rhythm action game. Whether or not it will have actual Joy-Con movement, will it use the Ring Fit, that kind of thing, I don't know. We don't get to see what the actual player is doing. It does seem like it has the left and right Joy-Con, right? And that maybe you move them in different directions to get that kind of thing happening. But yeah, that was a bit weird, but whatever. Fitness of the North Star, good stuff. Oddballers, Fitness of the North Star is out in March of next year. Oddballers is out early next year as well, so again, we're talking before March at some point. It kind of reminded me of Stickbold. So Oddballers is dodgeball, basically multiplayer dodgeball with wacky shenanigan stuff happening, which is very much Stickbold. So I'm curious if it's the same developer, to be honest. Tunic coming to Nintendo Switch September 22nd, pretty soon. Look for that on the channel when it does come out, because I will be playing it. Front Mission First and Front Mission Second are remakes of the original Front Mission 1 and 2. They will be out. Front Mission First will be out in November at some point. Front Mission Second will be out in 2023 at some point. And then also teased is that Front Mission Third, the remake of Front Mission 3. Eventually, it's in development. So that'll be out at some point. The Front Mission games are tactical mech shooter type things. not particularly my cup of tea, but they have a pretty decent cult following. Story of Seasons. Do I have a trailer for this? I do. Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. So, Story of Seasons, the brand you mightn't be familiar with, or the franchise name, but you may remember what it used to be called, which was Harvest Moon. The developer behind Harvest Moon lost the IP rights to that. It's now belongs to the same kind of churning house that Cooking Mama has gone to as well. So they're not the same developers anymore. If you had a fondness for Harvest Moon, I wouldn't touch new Harvest Moon anymore. They are not good games. The same goes for Cooking Mama. But the developers of Harvest Moon have instead made Story of Seasons, which is effectively the exact same thing. Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life is indeed another remake, remaster of the original. Again, I don't think it came out in the West, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. Interesting thing about this is it's a Stardew Valley type, yes, but remember, Stardew Valley got its inspiration from most of these games. It got its inspiration from Harvest Moon, Rune Factory, and so on. The interesting thing with A Wonderful Life was that you could have a family, you could have kids, and the kids would grow up. They would take after the two of you, your spouse and your main character. They would develop different skills along that way. They would grow up over time, and so on. The addition to this game is, with all of quality of life improvements and things like that, is that your main character, will also age over time. I'm not sure I want that. Oh, can I turn that off? I want to be an immortal farmer. It's kind of what I was going for. Anyway, coming 2023 at some point. There's no definitive date, but it will be the summer. So that's what's first financial quarter from April to July, something like that. Maybe afterwards. Octopath Traveler 2. So yeah, pretty great news to hear this. Octopath Traveler was a really good JRPG. It kickstarted the whole HD 2D art style, which you'll probably be familiar with now because a lot of games are employing it. But Team Asano definitely pioneered this artistic style to have really gorgeous HD backgrounds with pixel art in the foreground, and it's really fucking good. Octopath Traveler is a really good game. It was 8 distinct stories, a little bit like Live Alive or Live Alive or however you pronounce that game. So Octopath Traveler had a similar idea where you would just follow a separate character storylines and they'd all come together at the end. Octopath Traveler 2 seems like it's going to do much the same thing, only they might crisscross a bit earlier than they would have in Octopath Traveler. So you might see characters showing up in each other's storylines. Same character classes, just different characters, so there's no returning characters. It seems like it has jumped ahead in time as well. This is more of an Industrial Revolution age, whereas despite the giant crocodile dinosaur thing you just saw, this is more an Industrial Revolution age type thing, whereas the original Octopath Traveler was more your pretty standard medieval fantasy type. That is coming out in February of next year, end of February. Okay, Fae Farm. There was a kind of meme going around, I guess, about the Nintendo Direct this week, in that it was mostly farming and JRPGs, and and to be fair, it is chock full of farming and JRPGs. So Fae Farm is again a Stardew Valley type. It has this kind of chibi presentation. It's very quaint. It's very cozy. Kind of gist for this one instead, though, is that it is multiplayer, so you can play with up to 4 friends, local, online, what have you, and you all go off and have your farming and adventures and so on. Yeah, if you can find enough friends that are into that kind of thing, sure, why not? Fae Farm spring next year some stage. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. So the Theatrhythm series is something I've really wanted to play, but have never had a console I could play it on, because it was locked to the DS for a very long time. But this is effectively the Switch. The next version for Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is a rhythm music game, taking pretty much Final Fantasy music, but a lot of just Square Enix songs, and not just Square Enix, as a lot of other Japanese properties are also being added to it in DLC and stuff like that. But for the most part, you are effectively playing through the entire Final Fantasy series, but the music instead. Like, it plays through the events of the games, but you just play music instead. Yeah, this is definitely a game I want to play, and a game I will never be able to play on stream. This is just immediate ban for copyright infringement, but yeah. Cool. Definitely looking forward to playing that though, because I can find it's finally on a platform I can actually play it on. So 385 tunes from the Final Fantasy series from the beginning. Then there'll be a bunch of DLC from games like Chrono Trigger, Octopath Traveler, Nier, Live Alive, Live Alive, Live Alive, who knows, Legend of Mana, and a couple of more. And then a bunch of other things for Digital Deluxe Edition, yada yada yada. But eventually, all told, 502 tracks from JRPGs that all have, well, Final Fantasy in general, great music. Nier, incredibly good music. Octopath Traveler, same. Chrono Trigger, they all have incredible music, so that's, even if you're not necessarily into the games themselves, well, the music is really good. More Mario and Rabbids, just reminding you it's coming out soon, October 20th. Rune Factory 3 specials. Remember how I said there was a bunch of farming games in the Switch that kept going? So Rune Factory and Harvest Moon, you can pretty much draw a direct line from them to Stardew Valley. You know, they're kind of in the same vein. You could probably take Harvest Moon straight to Stardew Valley. And then Rune Factory pretty much goes Dark Cloud, Dark Chronicle, and then Harvestella, that's coming out pretty soon, is in the same idea in that it's meant to be mixing and matching a farming section, like slice of life, get to know the villagers type thing, and then like a actual RPG adventure thing off to the side. Harvestella is very much going down that route. But Rune Factory 3 is one of the best of those farming type games, and Rune Factory 3 Special, fun, you know, for people who haven't played the game before. It's a solid remaster, and then a nice little teaser that Rune Factory, the next one, whether they're going to call it Rune Factory 4 or they're going to call it something else, I would imagine they'll call it something else because the series just hasn't been around for a while. Anyway, N64 additions to the Switch Online, so there's some more N64 games going to be on the way. Pilot Wings, Mario Party 1 and 2 will be out some stage before the end of this year, and then into next year you're talking Mario Party 3, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excitebike 64, and GoldenEye 007, so that's going to make its way to the N64 platform. So some interesting changes is that it's been improved or smoothed or whatever you want, anti-aliased. So yeah, they've given it a bit of a polish, and there will be online multiplayer on the Switch version. It is also coming to Game Pass. However, Xbox has confirmed that the online multiplayer is exclusive to Switch. So you will still have local multiplayer on Xbox and Switch, but you'll only be able to get the online multiplayer with Switch. Don't know why, but there we are. Various Day Life. Hey, remember when I said there was a bunch of JRPGs and farming games? This is both. Various Day Life is not a new game. However, it is from the people from behind all those games: Bravely Default, Octopath Traveler, and so on. It is doing the HD 2D thing. This was originally a mobile game. This was originally exclusive to Apple Arcade, as you can probably see. Like this little timeline down at the bottom, the whole game is presented in this kind of left to right moving timeline kind of thing. But this is getting to know your friends, going out on an adventure with them. You collect new friends in villages. You do chores for the people in the village to unlock different classes and skills and things like that. So there is very much a villager get to know everybody relationship management kind of thing. And then there is a proper turn-based RPG thing happening in the background. I do believe it is a bit auto-fighty kind of thing, which you do definitely see in a lot of JRPGs on mobile, in that the fights basically play themselves and you just hop in every now and then to fix a few things. It has gotten some pretty good reviews. It is pretty well critically received. On the other hand, it is a mobile title that's being pushed onto console, so, you know, think about it yourselves, whether or not you would be better served with the Apple Arcade subscription thing, or if you want to buy the game just outright. I don't have an iPhone or anything like that, so I'll probably buy the game. Interesting. What I am also interested in is that there is another JRPG game that was Apple Arcade exclusive called Fantasian that looked really, really good. And I'm curious now if that will be brought over. However, Various Day Life is out today if you want to give that a look. Factorio, big PC factory game, if you like. What do they call them? Manufacturing type games where you just make bunches of I don't know how to describe it. You make like what's the word? Like conveyor belts of things flowing into other things to make something, and then that thing gets moved on somewhere else, and then that makes something, and so on and so forth. That on steroids, basically. But Factorio's been on PC for a good while. I think it's been in early access for a while, and it'll be 1.0 launching on Switch the end of next month. Ib. So I'm just going to show off Ib because on the surface it does not look very good, right? Graphically, it's not particularly impressive. Definitely has a very, very basic design to it. Now, it's meant to be a museum and whatever, so you can kind of forgive the sort of grey palette. Anyway, the idea of Ib is that it is a horror title, if you haven't figured that out by now, and is a particularly well-written horror title, despite, the graphical style. It's an RPG Maker thing, probably hand-drawn by the developer and what have you. But just to give it, just to give it an idea, just give it a look. Playism tend to make these kind of, or not, Playism tend to make these kind of, or publish these kind of simpler games. But yeah, Ib has gotten some pretty good critical review for its writing, if not for its graphical quality. And that'll be out at some stage at the beginning of next year. Mario Strikers has another update. Pauline and Diddy Kong have been added to the roster. Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemist at the End, and The Secret Key. Okay, so the Atelier games always have ridiculously long titles. And they're not even Square Enix games. But anyway, the Atelier series, or Alchemist series if you prefer, is a game where you mix a bunch of stuff together to make your items, your weapons, your armor, and stuff. There's essentially two games going on. There's the mixing alchemy game, and then there's a turn-based JRPG happening alongside it. So this is the third in the series. Unlike a lot of JRPGs, this is actually a direct continuation of the story that started in Atelier Ryza 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to say their titles because I don't remember them. They're too fucking long. But anyway, more of this, more JRPG walking around stuff. It definitely looks a lot better than 1 and 2. 1 and 2 were okay. They didn't look amazing, but they were all right. These are definitely looking a lot better. Did they show any of the alchemy stuff in this trailer? No. Okay, we're not. I guess we don't get to see the alchemy part of that minigame, but yes, there's a lot of alchemy stuff, and there's fan service DLC as well if you want that. I like the Ryza series, but it is absolutely not for everybody. Mario Kart 8, more tracks on the way. Nintendo Switch Sports, the golf bit of Nintendo Switch Sports has been pushed back to Christmas. It's meant to come out now, basically, but it's been pushed back. Miyamoto came on just to hype Pikmin Bloom, which has been out for ages. It's a Pokemon Go, but Pikmin, basically. But then he came out to say, hey, but also Pikmin 4 is happening. So Pikmin has not been seen since the Wii, I think. Like Pikmin 3 was like 10 years ago, something like that. It's been a while, anyway. But Pikmin 4, not a whole lot shown. They're mostly just tone setting, having this really low-end camera, low-angle camera, rather, to just depict these kind of things, but definitely looks very pretty. And it is mentioned that you will be able to play the game from the perspective of the Pikmin, rather than Pikmin is typically a top-down game. But at least for Pikmin 4, you'll be able to play from the perspective of the Pikmin. So that might be pretty cool. Again, Pikmin, not a game I'm particularly interested in, but I know a lot of people are. Just Dance, nope. Skip. Harvestella. Okay, so Harvestella, again, as I mentioned, JRPG farming stuff was definitely a mainstay for Nintendo Direct this week. So Harvestella has been shown off a couple of times now by Square Enix. It is their Rune Factory clone, basically. So there is a farming village management section, and then there is a JRPG turn-based, although I think this is an action RPG rather, so it's not turn-based, but it's the same idea. You have your farm, make your crops, get to know the villagers, sell your stuff, make more things to help you make more things, etc., etc., and then eventually there's a point in the game, or there's a point every year, I think, or something like that. There's a season where nothing will grow. So literally, you don't have to manage your farm for this season. You can go off and do the JRPG bit. Fine. I am still curious who the developer is, because it does look like it's the people behind I Am Setsuna and what's it called? Onanaki. Tokyo RPG Factory, but the developer's name hasn't come up in all of these trailers I've seen. So I am curious who the developer is. It's the same for Octopath Traveler and Bravely Default and stuff like that. It's Team Asano are the developer, but their name never comes up in the PR. Anyway, Harvestella has a demo out today. Today being when the Switch Direct went live, and the game itself is out at the beginning of November. We will be taking a look at this on the channel at some point. Bayonetta 3, I know I have the trailer there, but I'm actually not going to watch it because I don't want to be spoiled. But yes, Bayonetta 3 is out at the end of next month. I don't want to be spoiled on it, so I'm going to skip it. Master Detective Archives Rain Code. Okay, that's a hell of a name. It's also called Enigma Archives in Japan, I think. Or it might be called Enigma Archives in the West. And I think it's called Master Archives in Japan. So Spike Chunsoft. So this is from the same developer, same team behind Danganronpa. Danganronpa is a pretty edgy, pretty grim detective game. There've been 3 or 4 games in that series. 3 main, anyway. I think there was 1 spin-off. And anyway, this is effectively a spiritual successor to it, or the next iteration, if you like, of those Danganronpa style games. So it's not in the Danganronpa universe. It is its own separate thing, but it is presented in a very similar way. But one different thing here is that it does appear to have some kind of dungeon crawling aspect to it. How much that features in, we don't really know. There appears to be some kind of Egyptian motif to it as well. But we don't know how that dungeon part plays. I can kind of probably figure out how the detective stuff works, because it'll work more or less the same way Danganronpa did, I figure. But how the other end of that gameplay, the other side of that coin works, we don't know yet. But yeah, Danganronpa is... It's hard to say it's a good game. It is certainly an interesting game. And it's certainly interesting, and the actual main plot parts are really good. The grindy shit in between, not so much. I don't like that. But there we are. Okay, so a quick aside for Resident Evil, all of these games that you see here, so Village, 7, 2, and 3 remakes, and also the very first remake, are getting cloud editions for the Nintendo Switch. So Village will be out at the end of October, just in time for Halloween. The expansion for that's coming out in December for all other platforms as well, and then the original ones, 7, 2, and 3, and the original, sometime this year. I thought it was next year. Sometime this year. Cloud versions though, so unless your internet is very good, it's probably not going to be a very fun experience. Sifu coming to Switch end of November. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, and again a game that will absolutely terrifies me to play it, because I still have to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, and every time I think about playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, I go, you know, it's the anxiety just riles right up in me. Anyway, this is a remaster of the original Crisis Core. Crisis Core was a PSP game that never saw a digital release, so it was locked only to the UMD, which was a proprietary media for the PSP, which meant this is pretty much the only time the vast majority of people will get to play it, because the PSP did not do well, and the fact that it was not a digital game meant effectively you had to find the discs. I've been dying to play this again for a good while. I've never finished it, but as you can see, like a lot of these CG scenes, they don't have to do much to them. They looked really good back then. So Crisis Core tells the story of Zack Fair. Hey Melvin, how's it going? Oh, delayed flight back. Awful. Sorry to hear that. So Crisis Core tells the story of Zack Fair. He is effectively a prequel to the events of Final Fantasy VII. I won't spoilers for who he is and so on, but you can already see the Buster Sword is there. He's dressed very much like Cloud. There's Aerith, etc. He is very much involved in the story of Final Fantasy VII. So if you were interested and like the story, chances are you already know the story of Crisis Core, but even so, I would give it a shot. Crisis Core out the end of the year, some stage, December 13th. Radiant Silvergun is a shmup, very old shmup that's been remastered for the Switch, and it's out today. If you want to check that out. Endless Dungeon is an isometric dungeon crawler thing, up to 3 people, multiplayer, etc., etc. Moving on. Tales of Symphonia Remastered. Tales of Symphonia is a really good action RPG in the Tales series, and this is a remastered version of it coming out early next year. What people are a little annoyed about is that this is a port of the PS2 version, I think, or possibly the PC version, and the reason that's a problem is because that was a 30 FPS game, whereas the GameCube version was a 60 FPS game. It might be the other way around, I'm not sure. Either way, this is a port of the bad one. This is what people are annoyed about. As Tales of Symphonia is a good Tales game, is a good action RPG all by itself. It's a little annoying that we're getting the inferior version, and I believe the reason for that is that they don't actually have the code for the 60 FPS version anymore. Because Japanese software development in and around that time was effectively, the product's done, delete everything. Not great, but that's what happened. That's the same thing has happened to like Silent Hill as well. They've lost a lot of the code on that, which is very unfortunate. Life is Strange, the whole shebang, September. Like, I think it's everything. No, sorry, it's not. It's Life is Strange Remastered and Before the Storm. So not 2 and not 3. Weird. Okay, anyway, that's out. End of this month. Lego Brick Tales. Lego Brick Tales is the game I wanted Lego to be. So hopefully it'll actually live up to that. But the idea is here's sorry, my internet is buffering. Here's like a quest line I want you to do. I want you to build this thing to get up to this guy. You need to build a plane or something that can fly, and you'd be like, okay, and it lays out here's all the pieces you can use. Build something that can fly. And I guess you go through these iterations to see if it'll actually take off. I don't know how much of this is done for the trailer or how much of it is like a thing that just comes up and says it can't fly. I don't know. I will be interested to see how much creativity they allow for that, or do you have to build it exactly to a particular specification? That's what I'm interested to know. Romancing Saga, Minstrel Song. As Kotaku points out here, this is Square Enix's very big number RPG for Nintendo Switch. Yes, they are bringing out a lot of them. Anyway, moving on. Disney Speedstorm is Disney Mario Kart, basically. Fall Guys is the thing and still is going. Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Kirby's Return to Dreamland is another remaster remake. Can you see a trend of the last couple of years' releases? It's almost like something earth-shattering affected everybody on the planet all at once in the last 2 or 3 years. That meant development on new IP just was really, really difficult. I wonder. Weird. Anyway, it seems a lot of them just went, well, let's just remaster some old games because that's much easier to do. And that's what they did. So Kirby's Return to Dreamland, again, is a remaster of the original, and the additions here is one, there's a new morph form, which is this mech thing that effectively just destroys the game as far as I can tell, but there's 4-player multiplayer as well, so that's nice, and everybody can be Kirby if they want. So fun. And then the big news, the big megaton news, of course, was that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is not called The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is what it's called. There was some speculation that is it Tears of the Kingdom or is it Tears of the Kingdom? I don't know. I think breath and tears go together better. I have a feeling it's meant to be tears. Whatever. Anyway, this is a fairly moody trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, and this is mostly just in service of debuting the title for the game. But as you can see, the overworld from the first game is still there, and then layered on top there is a second overworld that appears to have been shattered at some point or torn apart. Tears of the Kingdom. Here we are. And you've got this cool kite or whatever. Interesting. So, that's it. That's all we know about it. We still don't have a release date. Oh no, we do have a release date. It's March at some point, right? Anyway, Legend of Zelda Tears. I'm going to keep doing it now. Fuck. Tears of the Kingdom. March... May. What's March? Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is March. Okay, anyway. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, May 12th, 2023, which means I now have a deadline to finish Breath of the Wild. I still haven't finished it. Okay, so that was the Nintendo's Direct for this week. not to be outdone, Sony had a state of play as well this week. So we'll quickly go through these. Tekken 8 was shown off and or announced. There was speculation that this is a bullshit CG trailer, and I'm trying to remember the name of Harada-san, Tekken's creative director, was like, nope, this is in-game. We fucked with the camera a bit, obviously, but no, this is actually in-game footage captured in engine, etc. And holy shit, it looks really fucking good. It's hilarious that the Tekken story appears to have not actually progressed at all. Like, it's still Kazuya and Jin fighting each other over the Devil Gene. Like, has anything happened since I've stopped playing? I stopped playing in 5. Like, has the story moved on at all? Anyway, yes, looks gorgeous. I probably won't play it because it's a fighting game and I've no one to play it with and I'm bad at them. Some VR titles shown off, PSVR 2 titles shown off. So first one was Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. So the Galaxy's Edge is what Disneyland, Disney World call their Star Wars section. And this was so this is Enhanced Edition or Extended Edition or something like that. So you might imagine this has been out before. It was an Oculus game. And I believe it was brought out in and around the same time they were launching the Galaxy's Edge section of Disneyland, Disney World. So yeah, it's Star Wars things, Star Wars first-person VR shenanigans. From what I've heard from the Oculus thing, it's pretty basic, but it has the Star Wars skin over it, so a lot of people will probably gravitate towards it. And you know, it's a good dip your toe into VR games, because I don't imagine it'll be very taxing. So there's that, and then the complete other end of the spectrum for VR titles, which is very much don't get your feet wet, just jump in. 2 feet is Demio. Demio is, I want to play a tabletop RPG, but I don't have a table. I don't have minis and so on, but I want to play a mini tabletop RPG. So okay, you can. So Demio is effectively, what if you had a really cool Dungeons and Dragons setup and it had all these fancy effects and what have you. So you can play the game from the perspective of your character, of your mini. You know, you can drop the camera down all the way down to that level and effectively have a first-person dungeon thing, or you can play it as if you are sitting at the table and like looking down on top. I've seen a couple of different Let's Plays of it, and it looks like a lot of fun, but obviously it is difficult to tell how VR plays if you aren't, you know, in the helmet at the time. Like a Dragon Ishin. So this was a bit of a surprise. So Yakuza Ishin was never released in the West. It is effectively the Yakuza series, but go all the way back to feudal Japan. But it's the same Yakuza shenanigans. It's the same Kazuya. Kiryu is not called Kazuya, obviously, but he has the exact same face. The characters from the Yakuza series show up as historical characters and stuff like that. So it's still the same actor, same whatever mocap, same voice actor, and so on. But the whole thing is samurai, feudal times. Ishin is, from what I've seen, a very good game. And it is great to see that it has gotten a remaster and is being released for the West as well, because vast majority of you would have not had the opportunity to play it. But yeah, it is Like a Dragon Ishin, and effectively the Yakuza name is going away. They're not going to be calling the series Yakuza anymore. They're going to be calling it Like a Dragon from now on. I forget that there is a reasoning for it, but I do not remember what it is. But yeah, it is officially the Yakuza series from now on will be called Like a Dragon. But yeah, Like a Dragon Ishin. I'm looking forward to play that. Pacific Drive. Okay, so Pacific Drive is a new IP. I had never heard of it before. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time it's been shown off. So the idea is there is some kind of otherworldly catastrophe ripping through what looks like the United States. And you are in this purpose-built station wagon, has all of these different crazy technology built into it. And I believe the idea is you need to get from one side to the other side without dying. And I think it's billed as a roguelike. So it's a roguelike, what do you call it? Road trip, but pretty much everything is trying to kill you along the way. You need to avoid like natural hazards, then some crazy supernatural weather happening, zombies at some point. I think it's randomized what exactly the catastrophe is every time you play it. But the idea is you need to keep your car going. You need to keep like up on fuel. Need to keep its structural integrity, and so on. There's a bit of some what I assume is meant to be gameplay. How much of it actually is debatable. It will be interesting to see. Do you play the whole game from the first person perspective? I'd imagine you do, probably just so you can see all of these different UI elements. I would also be curious if there's a VR version, because this feels like it's tailor-made for VR. The big problem that people have the first time they jump into VR is that I'm moving in the game, but I'm not actually moving in real life, and you have that weird disconnect. The way they have typically got around that is to either have you teleport to move, in which case you just jump to different sections. It's easier to, for whatever reason, it's easier to maintain in your head. Or the other way to do it is to put you in a vehicle. So put you in a mech, or put you in a car, or put you in a spaceship or something like that. And then it's easier to think that I'm actually just sitting in this vehicle. And yeah, I'm moving, but my body in game isn't moving, and my body in real life isn't moving, so it doesn't fuck with my head too much. If this game is taking place primarily inside the car, it would be a good candidate for something like that. On the other hand, it looks like it is pretty fast-paced, so fast-paced games typically don't do well in VR, except for Beat Saber, which will obviously be the exception. Anyway, then there was a quick video about PlayStation Stars, which is meant to be PlayStation's collectibles thing, which absolutely was going to be NFTs until people, had this massive backlash about NFTs for good reason. So they've obviously put a lot of work into it before they were going to announce that, hey, we've got our own NFT bullshit. And you're like, we don't want NFTs. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we put a lot of work into this, so we're gonna move ahead with it anyway. I thought this would have some pictures, but I guess it doesn't. I'm gonna try to skip ahead. Yeah, so just showing off these are the collectibles, whatever they'll be. How you earn them, there's going to be like campaigns that you just need to play X number of game, or play this particular game, achieve this particular trophy within this time limit or something like that, and you'll get these little collectible spinny things. For whatever reason, it's launching in the app first, and then where exactly it lives on the console, I don't know. Like, is it presumably it's going to live on your profile somewhere, because that would be probably the only place that would make sense for it to live. I don't get them. I don't really get them, but whatever. They still don't really know what's happening with them. Alright, Stellar Blade. So this game previously was known as Project Eve. It was at not the last State of Play, but I think the State of Play before that. This is action RPG that kind of looked Soulsy at the beginning, but I think the more that I've seen of it, it's probably going to be more of a Ninja Gaiden type thing. I'm going to skip a little bit past the CG talky bit. As you can already see, it looks pretty good. I think this is a debut game as well from the developer, which is insane. So I'm going to try to skip to gameplay maybe soon. Okay, a bit of gameplay-ish, kind of. It's still cutting back and forth here. Alright, here's some gameplay things. So it seemed like it was going to be sort of Soulsy, and I think it still has a bit of that to it, but it clearly has it's clearly much more focused on action rather than Souls as kind of... I know the later Souls games lent further into action, but the earlier Soul games were very much slow pace, take your time, don't get greedy, and so on, and you'll win. Whereas this very much is going all in on the action. So how close it'll actually be to Souls, who knows? But looks good. Again, we don't know when that's coming out. Allegedly it's 2023, but who knows? Rise of the Ronin is, again, a new IP from Team Ninja. Team Ninja, how many teams do they have? It must be Teams Ninja, really, because they're working on way too many games for this all to be the one team. Rise of the Ronin, if you just saw Like a Dragon Ishin, you would almost think, hey, this is the same game. But I think this is probably going to be more of a Ghost of Tsushima kind of thing. What is interesting, though, is that we have... So, if we have a look at this... So, 1863 Japan. Now, to be fair, I don't know a whole lot about the actual history of this time. It's mostly just weeb Japanese stuff that I want to be a samurai kind of thing. But you could see the architecture is Japanese on one side. But then here in the background, and there's a better shot of it earlier. This is very much Western European architecture, right? This side, this kind of town hall looking thing, right? This is the fucking American flag is right there as well and everything. Like, so what's that about? Was that a thing? Was that a thing in Japanese history? 1863 would have been way after feudal Japan. I think it's in and around the time they opened up again. So it might be that time. You have Western influence boats as well coming in, ships, and so on. But I do feel like Rise of the Ronin looks like it's going to be a Ghost of Tsushima type of game. Particularly when we get to there's a very brief burst of gameplay near the end. So this looks like, this in particular just screams Assassin's Creed Ghost of Tsushima type game. Definitely not the more story-focused, like a dragon-ish type thing. But that was pretty cool, right? That grapple pull-in harpoon thing, that would look pretty damn good. We don't know when that's coming out. I can almost say the same thing for a lot of these games. Sinduality, another new IP. This is effectively, what if Titanfall, but anime. Okay, that's effectively it. So you are in this big mech, you have this AI companion, this girl floating around who is not... It's hard to explain. Are they a real person or do they only exist in your head? On the other hand, she was actually grabbing things, so it's hard to tell. I believe it's a third-person team-based thing. Although all of this is just showing single player, so maybe it is just one person. But yeah, you have a bit of Zone of the Enders, a bit of Titanfall. You probably won't have the option, like in Titanfall, obviously you could get out of the mech and run around, and in fact a lot of the game was you out of the mech, and you would only jump into your Titan for very specific scenarios. But this game appears to take place entirely inside your mech, or whatever it's called. I imagine it won't be called mech, because they like to have their own trademarkable name. But anyway, that's Sinduality. More of that later, I assume. And then God of War Ragnarok. This is what they finished with. It's a good trailer. It's certainly hype for God of War. The only thing is, it's out soon, you know? People knew it was going to be out soon. I would have rathered like something megaton to drop on somebody, you know, something crazy. But I'm going to play God of War at some point. You know, I will play it. I'm just not super hyped for it, I guess. So it doesn't hit me as hard. I did enjoy the first one. I imagine I would enjoy this one too. I don't know. Maybe it's the depression, which could be it as well. But I don't know. I'm not super hyped to play it, to be honest. I will play it eventually. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, that was State of Play as well. But also this week, from Thursday to today, TGS has been going on, which is the Tokyo Game Show. So a lot of other games have been showing us, so we're not done with the trailers. So Ryu Ga Gotoku Studios, the guys behind the Yakuza series, which is now the Like a Dragon series, had their own showcase during TGS where they showed off a bunch more games in the Like a Dragon series. So this is Like a Dragon Gaiden. This is effectively a prequel to a game that hasn't actually been announced, technically. Well, it has been announced, I just haven't shown you what it is yet. But this is effectively what happened with Kazuma Kiryu, main character pretty much of the Yakuza games, before they became Like a Dragon. What's he been doing? What's he been up to? Is he okay? Is he alright? This is an entirely just a story section. There's no actual, like, in-game stuff. I mean, sorry, this is probably in-game, but there's no, like, person moving the character around doing things, we'll say. Gameplay. That's the word. That's what you call that. Looks good. It's got the typical somber Yakuza storytelling direction. But this is effectively what's been happening with him. He was meant to be retired from the series, but for whatever reason they're bringing him back. It's not great, but it's fine. And then the game that it's meant to act as a prequel to is, of course, Like a Dragon 8. So Like a Dragon, or Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is what it was called, Yakuza 7, starred Ishiban, who was meant to be taking over from Kazuma Kiryu. And he's still there. That's him on the right with the hair. But on the left, now I probably did these trailers out of order, to be fair. On the left is Kiryu, who's meant to be retired, who's meant to have gone into isolation. I think he's meant to be dead, actually. Or has faked his own death or something like that. But no, he's back and he's got a new hairstyle. He's got my hairstyle. No, he's got my hair color. He doesn't have my hair. I don't have a hairstyle. Anyway, Like a Dragon 8. He's definitely, he's clearly a fan favorite and definitely people will want him back. But on the other hand, his story's over. I don't know. Bringing him back is right and fair. But there is another series that Ryuga Gotoku Studios do, which is called Judgment. So Judgment and Lost Judgment are now on PC, out today. So there's a couple of games that have been announced that are now on PC and so on. So I'm not going to highlight all of them. I'm only highlighting this one because it was assumed that Takuya Kimura, who does the likeness for main character Takayuki Yagami, his PR team, his licensing team, his whoever management team were like, we don't want his face used in PC versions because they'll mod him into shenanigans. They'll mod him into things that they don't want his likeness used in. So there was a lot of fighting about, we want to put the game on PC, but this management team were like, we don't want it because they'll fuck with the people will fuck with it. That must have been fixed. There was also disputes on whether the series would continue because of this animosity that was brewing between the development team and the management team. I guess at least part of that has been fixed because it's out on PC today and it can be modded. So I guess they're fine with it. Were they bought off, or were they like, we won't officially endorse modding tools or something like that? Maybe they got some kind of contractual thing in there. Either way, it's there. They're good games. If you have a PC and are interested in big, heavily Japanese-focused action adventure titles, yeah, give them a shot. Okay, so announced during TGS, this is Unholy. So this is a first-person horror title. You are, I believe, looking for your missing child, and it's been a while since they've gone missing. The police have effectively said, there's no, evidence, we've lost trails and so on, we can't find anyone. And now there's some sort of weird supernatural shit happening when you put on this crazy mask you found. It all seems like it's a pretense to just do crazy mask stuff, but whatever. That's all there is to the trailer. It appears to be coming to every current gen platform, except Nintendo, because I don't think it would be able to output this kind of graphics. Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series, so that makes sense. More about that later, I guess. We don't really know a whole lot about it right now. Suikoden 1 and 2, not to be outdone with even more JRPGs must be announced. Suikoden is from Konami, so it's not Square Enix, so you can't complain about Square Enix for this one. So Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remastered. This, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago maybe, Konami were saying, hey, we're going to be bringing back this big new video game series that everybody loves. And everyone's like, Silent Hill? No, not that one. Metal Gear Solid? No, not that one. Castlevania? No. Keep going. Contra? Okay. Anyway, they got all the way down the line. Suikoden. I've never played the games themselves. I know the name. I know the title. Other than that, I don't know a whole lot more about it. But whatever. It's another JRPG. I imagine I'll get around to it at some point. This is more of a PSA to people who would be interested, but Wolong Fallen Dynasty has a demo out right now, and it is limited, time limited. You can only play it for 10 days from when it was announced, which was Friday last week. So you have until next Sunday, to play it if you want. This is from Team Ninja. It is the guys behind Nioh 1 and 2, and Stranger Paradise. the Final Fantasy Souls game. We will be playing this on the channel at some point because I definitely want to play that demo too. I haven't played it yet, but I will get around to it. It is effectively Sekiro from a different team. No, it's definitely given that vibe. It is China's Age of Warring States, or the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, if you prefer. It's that era of their history. So effectively feudal Japan, but China, which is extremely reductive and bigoted, probably, but that's the way I'm going to describe it. Kojima teases a new game with mysterious websites. So yeah, Kojima's back to doing his mystery, I won't tell you what I'm working on kind of thing, because he likes doing that kind of thing. But there is a website open. This is it. This is the gist of the website. It just has this picture that refuses to load. God damn it. Whatever. It's this picture with the person, blacked out face, just says, "Who am I?" There were some images from Kojima's Twitter account where he was in some kind of VR development, and this being like someone's face, you know, it could be a VR thing in that you are inhabiting a first-person perspective, and maybe you are trying to deduce who you are in your own skin. I don't know. I may just be making up a game here. On the other hand, it could just be Death Stranding 2. Because the other issue is that some people have done some reverse image searches and they believe it's Ellie Fanning, or Elle Fanning, I don't know how she pronounces her name. Another person has found out that Norman Reedus is following her on Instagram, Norman Reedus being the main character of Death Stranding. The two of them have never actually worked together on any project, so what other reason would they be working with each other, and so on. So it could just be Death Stranding 2. We don't know. That is all speculation. All we know for now is there is a website that has this picture on it, and that's it. And it's attributed to Kojima Productions, so that's all we know. Okay, outside of TGS, so even when people weren't at TGS, they were also debuting their games. So Saturnalia, I forget the name of the developer now, apologies. So this is a horror title. It's a horror, like, escape room roguelike kind of thing. So you have a couple of different characters who are all trying to get out of this town before they get sacrificed or something like that. You have to make your way through this kind of twisting village. Every time you have to replay it, it changes. So you're not going to know the path through every time. However, the puzzles you encounter, while you'll have to solve them again, apparently the solutions are always the same. So in that case, once you know how to solve a puzzle, it's solved effectively, as long as you remember the solution. You will also have different characters, so if one character gets captured, which we'll see in a second here how the capturing works, but if one character gets captured, you can rescue them, or ignore them and just carry on. But if all characters are captured, you have to start over. So that's how the rogue mechanic works. We get to the part where they're actually captured. So there's a lot of like finding keys, finding solutions, finding ways around problems and stuff like that. That's built into the game. So it's effectively, can you get away from this guy with all of your team? And can you get everybody out at once? And, you know, how well can you do that sort of thing? You are being hunted down by something. Some kind of goat-looking guy, rather. Not ghost. I must have skipped over it. Okay, anyway. You are being hunted down. At the same time. Whether you're being hunted every second of the game, I don't know, but maybe. Hollow Knight Silksong officially heading to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Again, this is more of a, we kind of knew this. We kind of knew this was happening, but this is more confirmation because every video and trailer about Silksong hasn't highlighted PlayStation. Basically, it's always been it's coming to Switch or it's coming to PC, but we haven't had confirmation that it's coming to PlayStation. And now there is. So yeah, it's going to be on pretty much everything that Hollow Knight was already on. The original Hollow Knight, Silksong will also be on it. So good. Sims 4 has gone free to play. It's go free to play at the end of next month. So all of that money you spent on your expansion packs, sorry. Thanks for your money, I guess, because you're not going to get a whole lot. People who already own the base game will get something. It's there somewhere. I don't know. You'll have to read the Sims. EA Play and EA Play Pro members will receive an upgraded experience when member-only bundles of The Sims 4 go into the playlist. Playlist. The fuck is that? I think it's like a rotating thing of DLC or something like that. So you'll get the Get to Work expansion and the toddler stuff if you already own the game. So if you've already bought those, get fucked, I guess. Anyway, there'll be more about that. There's a Sims Summit later on, before October 18th. Babylon's Fall has fallen. So Babylon's Fall, Square Enix's attempt to make a live service action game, face planted out of the gate. Nobody liked it. It had a horrible art style. It was incredibly grindy, and nobody played it. Kind of difficult for a live service game when there isn't anybody online to play it with. You know, they said you could play the game solo. You can. You won't make any progress whatsoever, but you can play the game. Anyway, they've killed it. Despite saying that, yes, we will support the game for 2 years with content. We have this roadmap, etc., etc. There'll be a large-scale update to fix all these things. Nah. Fuck it. We're killing it. So February next year, you'll no longer be able to play Babylon's Fall, assuming you were even playing it in the first place. By the looks of things, they weren't. Nobody was playing it. Okay. So some news from PSVR 2. PSVR original games won't work on PSVR 2. So this was kind of expected, really, because the way the PSVR works, the original, was object tracking. So on the headset, there were distinct lights on the headset, and it would track the lights for your head position, and then it would track either the light on your controller for your hands position, or the two balls on the top of the PS Move controllers. It would track those. Whereas PSVR 2 is inside-out tracking, in that it has eye tracking for your eyes, but then it also has gyroscopic tracking for your hand placement, hand rotation. So there is feedback from the ring on the controller, as you can see. Well, it's shadowed there, but there's a ring around the controller, which is effectively one gives rotation of your hand and position. And position is there's feedback from the headset to the controller to tell where exactly it is in relation to you, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not doing object tracking, basically. It's doing inside-out tracking, in that there are lenses inside to look at your eye position, and there are lenses outside to see the controllers and stuff like that. So they fundamentally work differently, so it makes sense that they wouldn't work on each platform. So I'm not surprised in that sense. What I am curious about is there will inevitably be ports of the PSVR games to PSVR 2. In fact, there were many ports of PSVR games to Oculus or to Vive and so on, and vice versa. There were some games that were only on HTC Vive or only on the Index that were ported over to PSVR. Much worse versions of them, but whatever, they were still ported over. What I'm curious is if I have bought the PSVR version of Beat Saber, we'll say, hypothetically, will I get a free PSVR 2 upgrade to that, or do I have to buy it again? That's what I really want to know. Like, I'm not surprised they don't work. What I want to know is, do I have to buy it again, or are you gonna be good guys and be like, hey, you bought in early on the whole VR thing, we appreciate that, here's a free upgrade instead. Alright, anyway, maybe they'll do it, but I doubt it. Okay, so those are some of the games that are coming soon. But what can you play right now? Well, one game you can play right now is Very Stay Alive, because we mentioned it in the Switch Direct, or the Nintendo Direct. So it is the game that used to be Apple Arcade exclusive. It's from the Team Asano guys who do Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default, Triangle Strategy, and so on. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I think I'll give it a shot. It depends how much. It depends if it is cheaper to Apple Arcade it, and maybe I'll see if it works on my tablet, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Is it cheaper to get an Apple Arcade subscription, or is it cheaper to just buy the game outright? But outside of TGS and those kind of announcements, Voice of Cards, Beast of Burden, also released this week. We played a bit of it on the channel. We played a bit of it on Thursday. It's a JRPG from the creative director behind the Nier series. He does the writing for this game, or at least oversees the writing for this game, something like that. It is a turn-based JRPG, but it is given the presentation as if it is a card game. And it works. It's a weird way to do it, but it works, and it certainly keeps costs down for them. And Yoko Taro tells some really fucked up stories, to be honest. So there'll be some interesting stuff there. So check it out. The VOD should be up over on YouTube, or it's probably still on Twitch as well. And then also Metal Hellsinger also released this week. So Metal Hellsinger is what if Doom, but also rhythm game. So it's a first-person shooter, very much has the Doom idea of you're in hell and the hell things and hell architecture and landscapes and so on. But you can see there's this beat beside the shooting reticle, and you need to shoot, fire, slash, dash, reload, etc. all on the beat. And the better you are at matching the beat, the more damage you will do, and so on, your multipliers, etc., etc. This is one of those games that is like, I will never be able to play this because I don't have this kind of rhythm, or I don't have this kind of consistent rhythm, shall we say. I think I could probably do it for 1 or 2 levels and then be very tired very soon afterwards. But the music is really good. It is very much unabashedly heavy metal, the guys, that kind of stuff. Rammstein and System of a Down, and really, really heavy metal, basically. Really death metal, I guess, that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's been getting some good reviews, but I don't think it's a game I'll ever... Here you go. There's some of the artists that are playing in it. I don't know any of them because I'm not I'm not hip with the kids and the music, but there you go. There's some of the artists that are in the game. Okay, so it is now, unfortunately, time to talk about the worst parts of video games, the video game industry. So let me just make sure I'm still streaming. I am indeed still streaming. Okay, good. So what did I want to say? Yeah. Oh, okay, whatever. So this isn't necessarily video game news exactly, but it is games industry news. So Fanbyte, that I have used for a bunch of articles in the past, have been massively downsized. So Fanbyte hit by round of layoffs. Editor-in-chief Danielle Rondeau among those let go from Tencent-owned media outlets. So Tencent have effectively cleared house at Fanbyte. Editor-in-chief is gone, the head of media and editor-at-large is gone, and the features editor is gone. Now, that's upper management just gone. That's not good. That is... that this isn't a we're replacing people or, changing up staff or whatever. This is, we're shutting down the whole thing, basically. So nobody knew about it until Danielle Rondeau, editor-in-chief, said, "Hi friends, just want to say it's been a true honor and pleasure to be editor-in-chief of Fanbyte. I think we did some special things here. I'm currently looking for work." Just not great. The cuts were described as abrupt and unforeseen. So people will be like, "I've suddenly been laid off. Incredibly proud to be there, but I'm honored to, but I need a job." Fanbyte, as pointed out here by Jeffrey Rousseau, Fanbyte is the third games media outfit to have layoffs just this week. Future, UK Future, who do a bunch of they used to do a bunch of the official magazines, like official Xbox Mag, official PlayStation, and so on. I think they do Edge magazine as well, but they have laid off their entire editorial staff, despite high revenue projections. So there wasn't a cutting costs thing. It's just, we want more money and we don't want to pay you. And Kotaku reported that G4 TV only recently coming back. Like, G4 TV had been off the air, we'll say, for years and years, and it came back only recently. Like, it seems like it was only like a month, 2 months ago. It's probably more than that because time is weird, but it seems like it was only pretty recently. But they've laid off 20 to 30 members of their staff. That is a sizable chunk of their staff. Like, it was a small team, and it's now an extremely small team. So yeah, not good. And due to the abruptness of it and the fact that they were making a profit, Tencent absolutely could take the hit on all of this money stuff. So because of that, as my very small protest that nobody will see, but I won't be using Fanbyte articles that are still there. So you're not going to see them for a while until I hear more about that story, basically. Okay, Square Enix becomes part of the problem. Square Enix becomes part of the Oasis blockchain. Yay! That's right. They've made good on their NFT threat, unfortunately. So Square Enix blockchain's ambitions have ramped up as the publisher has become part of a chain itself. So it is a node validator. I don't know what any of this shit means, but I don't know. It's like a verifier or something. If someone wants to do a blockchain transaction, they're one of the people who can say, yeah, that's okay, or something like that. Allegedly, it's environmentally friendly, proof of stake, citation needed on that one. However, it's not alone in this enterprise. Other video game publishers who are also jumping into it are Bandai Namco, Sega, and Ubisoft. Now, Ubisoft are also on another blockchain, so they're definitely jumping in with both feet. Final Fantasy publisher will also be working with Oasis on exploring the feasibility of harnessing user contributions in the development of new games on the Oasis blockchain. Gross. That's NFT stuff, basically. So there was a story when they sold all of their Western studios, so when they sold Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, that they were going to use the money, a tiny amount of money now. Like, they were sold for a penny, basically. They were sold for such a tiny amount of money for what they got. They were going to use that money to invest in blockchain gaming shit. And yeah, this is them making good on that threat, I guess. We won't know much about it yet because the Oasis blockchain hasn't actually launched, technically. I think it's launching later this year or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty gross. And I have seen already some of their NFT ideas. Like, they have Final Fantasy VII figurines. Really good looking figurines, but they have NFT shit attached to them. I'm like, can I have it without the NFT shit, please? Anyway. Okay. Again, we gotta shit on Bobby. We always gotta shit on Bobby, at least once a week. Okay, so UK Watchdog officially launches in-depth probe of Xbox Activision deals. So, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the UK Competition and Markets Authority, I was trying to remember what they were called. Effectively, it's the UK version of the FTC in the US. That they said this deal could be referred for an in-depth investigation due to a number of antitrust concerns. That it was worried about the impact the deal could have on PlayStation, and notably its ability to compete with Xbox making a lot of pretty big games exclusive. So they've made good on that threat. It has now been officially set up for a more in-depth review. The CMA offered Microsoft the chance to submit proposals addressing its concerns, but by Thursday, the company had chosen not to do so. So it has appointed an independent panel to scrutinize the deal. They haven't begun yet, so we don't know, what they'll be looking at, what specifically, how long we need to wait on that, etc., etc. There is speculation that the EU will probably do the same thing, but Microsoft hasn't officially submitted the merger takeover documents, I guess, to Brussels, the headquarters of the EU. So I guess we'll find out on that end, and then the rest of the article is just reminding you of what the deal is and so on. But updates during the week when this happened, Sony were like, yes, good, do that. Them owning Call of Duty would have major negative implications for gamers and the future of the gaming industry. I really wish when Sony were talking about these kind of things that they wouldn't say gamers. I wish they'd say customers. Gamers just sounds wrong in this kind of legalese back and forth trade shit. I don't know. Anyway, so Sony are understandably like, yeah, good. Kill this deal, please. Anything that kills this deal. And Microsoft, as you might imagine, like, no, boo this man. From their point of view, they say it makes zero business sense for Microsoft to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation given its market-leading console position. What that, of course, doesn't say is that having Call of Duty on Xbox would make Xbox leading console position, potentially, as well as Game Pass and so on and so forth, further cementing that lead. There's very much a both sides to this thing, but it's hard to see it as a good thing for Xbox and Activision and so on to be consolidated in one platform. Though you could argue PC is an opposite platform, but whatever. Anyway, continuing the Activision Blizzard shit train. Overwatch 2 doesn't know what to do with its characters. So Kiriko, who's a new character for Overwatch 2, will be free for all Overwatch 2 players who already own a copy of the original. However, other characters will be locked. So the sequels move to lock access to most future characters behind a battle pass. So you'll need to grind the shit out of the game to unlock a new character. Which isn't good considering this is a character shooter. Like, it's literally its deal. Its whole deal is new characters and fun characters and stuff. And a sizable amount of their monetization is like cosmetics for those characters. So this is a really, really weird decision to do this. What we actually see in the data is that a majority of players in Overwatch have a majority of their playtime on 2 or fewer heroes. So yeah, fine, people have their favorites. You can't expect people to play literally every single character, right? People will gravitate towards 1 or 2, particularly in fighting games or particularly in character action games. You're going to have your favorites. You're going to have your mains, and if someone is already playing your main, you'll have your off main. And in general, that's how it goes. It's unlikely you'll have more than that. Maybe you might have 3 or 4 characters you like to play if you really play the game a lot. It's unlikely you like to play every single character in equal amount, right? So this is dumb. This is a dumb reasoning to lock all of your characters behind a battle pass. Original Overwatch players didn't play enough different characters, so they probably won't miss them, is the idea here. No, that's not how that works. But okay. Particularly if you aren't an original Overwatch player and are coming into the game fresh, you're going to want to see the new characters as well. You know, you've just had a good opportunity to like these new ones too. Somebody else, though, on the developer team also mentioned that heroes are the single most engaging content that we have in the game, so we're gonna lock them behind a battle pass. One of these things doesn't work with the other, guys. New players who want to try Kiriko will either have to pay $10 for the premium battle pass or grind the free one all the way up to level 55. This is you have no job, and you have no other life, and you play no other video game and have no other responsibilities. All you'll do is play Overwatch 2 all day, every day. No, they won't. Well, okay, some people will, but still, vast majority of people won't. We're trying to take some of those really hard rock, paper, scissors interactions out of the game and replace them with more player choice. So this is the idea that Overwatch characters have a hard counter. Like one character very much counters another one. I said that wrong. One character will very much counter another one. You pick one guy, okay, I'm going to pick this guy, basically, as a hard counter to them. So they want to avoid that by giving people more choice, but then they're locking that choice behind the battle pass. Do you see the problem here? Do you see what the issue is here? Locking an ever-increasing proportion of the hero roster behind a battle pass tiers, free or premium, feels like a step backward for player choice. Yes, it does. Anyway. Alright, we're going to finish with some dumb stuff. So, a while ago, Square Enix released this extremely cringe trailer for Forspoken. It had a lot of the dialogue massively out of context, and then rapidly one after the other. It was not well received, let's put it that way. People absolutely dunked on it. But this is from the creative producer on Forspoken. He said, "It was unexpected to see the reactions to the social media post. That's not the direction that we thought it was going to go, but I have to admit, some of the memes are pretty funny, so I got a good laugh out of it." So, they were, it wasn't exactly the way we wanted it to go, but hey, it went viral, and more people saw it than probably would have in the first place. So there's that. It's got that going for them. We don't want to ruin the experience with our marketing campaign, so they were selectively choosing dialogue that wouldn't spoil the story and so on. So I guess these are probably moments in the game that aren't super important and are out of context and what have you. It's still funny though. Anyway. And yes, people who are annoyed with the chatter between Frey and her cuff companion, you can tone that down. Basically, there's a slider in the game to say how much they chat to each other, pretty much. And a mod for Cyberpunk 2077. So, Cyberpunk 2020, CD Projekt Red have released a bunch of mod tools recently, although this was made before they had done that. But this is a kind of, there's an extra toggle now on your car that if you want to, you can take it and fly around in it. Cool. It looks really fucking good. How heavily does it crash? Does it crash immediately? Probably. But anyway, and I don't mean like the car physically crash, I mean the game crash. Oh god, get sick immediately. But yeah, impressive stuff there. Can you do it with a motorbike? That would be hilarious. I haven't watched the entirety of this video. I wonder if he has a flyby with a motorbike. I doubt it somehow. Doesn't look like it. Anyway, pretty cool mod. But also CD Projekt Red have released their own modding tools, so we might see some like really impressive stuff in the next few weeks or months. However, what will I leave? I'll leave Metal Hellsinger to loop. Anyway, that was the news for September 12th, September 18th, 2022. So we had Nintendo Direct. Big news out of that being Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has its new title. It's not called Breath of the Wild 2 anymore. State of play, like the biggest thing out of that was the God of War Ragnarok trailer, which everyone already knew about. You know, the game is out really soon. Like, it's a bit disappointing, to be honest. I would have hoped... I don't know, I'm hoping for something. I want to be hype about something, I guess, and I'm just not, really. Anyway, TGS, a lot of work coming out of Ryoga Gotoku Studios. That Unholy trailer looks really good. How well it'll play, I don't know. Like, there have been a lot of these first-person PT-like horror games that have looked really good, but have not really played that well, so I guess we'll see as it comes out. Saturnalia has a really interesting art style, so I am curious about its presentation. It has a bit of the, like... What are those games called? It's not Phasmophobia. What's the one where you have to sacrifice a bunch of people, but there's something chasing you the whole game? You're all in a house. I forget what the fuck it's called now. But it has a lot of that kind of roguelike thing of it. So be interested to see how that plays. Fanbyte having massive layoffs, not great. You know, it's not good for game journalism that we're losing another voice. Fanbyte were very much on the side of consumers. You know, they weren't just regurgitating PR, press releases and stuff like that. Like, they did have some really good editorials and opinion stuff as well. So that's not good news. You know, it's not great news. The Activision merger being sent to further scrutiny. Like, they were threatening it was going to happen, and now it has. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out, because like, there are good points on both sides of it, really. It's that Sony needs to innovate more. Like, Sony really does need to compete with the Game Pass. On the other hand, they don't have the money to compete with the Game Pass, because Xbox has Microsoft money. Sony does not have that kind of money. So yeah, like, they do need to innovate. They do need to compete, and this gatekeeping stuff that they're doing isn't great. On the other hand, Activision is way too big a publisher to allow to be acquired like that. I think probably the real thing to do is to probably sell off their IP individually, like carve it up, or split Activision and Blizzard down the middle instead, and just, I don't know, maybe Microsoft get Activision and they don't get Blizzard, or they get Blizzard but they don't get Activision, or something like that. I don't know what the answer to that is. What'll probably happen is that they'll get their merger regardless, and they'll just have to make a better deal with Sony around Call of Duty. The focusing on Call of Duty, as I said whenever last time the story came up, is the mistake, because Microsoft can just say, yeah, cool, here's Call of Duty, grand. We'll keep everything else though, because you didn't say anything about Diablo or Overwatch or any of those other games. So that's the mistake from Sony's point of view, to be perfectly honest. But whatever, we'll see how it goes. I'm not a lawyer. Right. That was the news. So what is happening on the channel next week? So here is our roadmap for the rest of the year. As you might have noticed, I've made a new row and column. It has gotten bigger. So this week we played more of Returnal with Melwin. We beat Frike, and we've moved on to the second biome. Now we're stuck on Ixion, who's the second boss. We finished the council, so the council's over. We will need a new game to replace that, so more on that in a second. Thursday we played the Beast of Burden. Voice of Cards: The Beast of Burden with the Yoko Taro game that I was mentioning there a while ago. It only came out this week. And we also played the demo for the Diofield Chronicle, which had a surprising amount of content in it. The Diofield Chronicle is a strategy RPG, a real-time strategy RPG. That has a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics to it, but it's not grid-based and it is real-time, so that's a little bit different. And yesterday we were playing more Xenoblade Chronicles 2, wherever it is there. We're playing more Xenoblade Chronicles 2, just pushing along with that game. I have a feeling we're getting close to the end now. It's 3 streams left in it, maybe? 2 or 3. And then we're back to weekly news recap. So, what are we playing next week? So, depending on whether or not Melwin is free, because they're only getting back from a trip, we will play Returnal. So we'll keep playing that, pushing through Biome 2, hopefully defeat Ixion and move on to Biome 3. Yeah, I'm enjoying playing through it again. I was very burnt out on the game before when I was platinuming it. Platinuming is not a verb, but whatever. Like, I was pretty burned out on it, and I also fucked up the save transfer, so I actually have a much older save. I don't have my 100% save anymore, which is really fucking annoying, but anyway. But yeah, whatever. It's fun to play through the game, and in co-op, it's different, you know. It's not quite the same annoyance that you get. You know, you have somebody to resurrect you, you have somebody to take aggro as well. Anyway, so we'll if Melwin is free, we will play Returnal. If Melwin is not free, however, we will play Return to Monkey Island, which is releasing next week. It's actually releasing on Monday, tomorrow, or today, if you're watching the VOD. I am planning to make this the new Foley Fable, so we will do a full playthrough of Return to Monkey Island. So if we don't start it on Monday, we'll start it on Wednesday instead, and then it will be the Wednesday game going forward until I finish it. Since it's a brand new game, there won't be walkthroughs and whatever for it, so I can't just look up the solutions to puzzles. Well, at least for a week. I think by a week all the solutions will be up by then, but whatever. So we're going to play a little bit of that, either on Monday or on Wednesday. Definitely Wednesday, maybe on Monday. If we do end up playing it on Monday, then I'll just play it twice next week. Thursday. So since I do want to keep the schedule free for Plague Tale Requiem whenever it comes out at the end of next month. So I don't want to start a new longer Let's Play. So instead, we've been doing one-shots up until now. So Wolong Fallen Dynasty, sorry, buffering. Wolong Fallen Dynasty is, as I mentioned, it's effectively Sekiro, but from a different team. A demo was released during Tokyo Game Show, but it is a time-limited demo, so I have to play it next week or I won't get a chance to play it. So we're going to play that on the channel. I have played all of their previous games. So I've played Neo, I've played Neo 2, I've played Stranger of Paradise. This seems a lot more action-focused. Plus the character can jump, which they haven't been able to do up until this point. So there's that too. So yeah, we'll take a look at that on Thursday. On Friday, if I don't have D&D, so I don't know yet, I need to check with the other team, the rest of my players, if they can play or not, because a lot of them are on holidays, so we'll see. They may not be around. If they're not around, we'll play Solstice. So this is a bit of gameplay from Solstice. It has a lot of Devil May Cry to it. Video is still buffering. It has a lot, not buffering. What is the word? I don't know. It's on low quality, regardless. It has a fair bit of Devil May Cry to it. I kind of like the presentation, and I do want to play a more action-focused brawler type game. You know, as much as I like the Souls games, sometimes I just want to wail on a character and not have to be dodging every single attack every time perfectly and not getting hit, etc. You know, sometimes I just want to hit things and have fun. And that's what this looks like. It looks like it is like a throwback to some of the older PS3 360 games that have this kind of God of War light games. But yeah, I don't know. I like its presentation. It looks fun. It looks interesting. And it is out next week, so we'll be playing it not quite on release day, but soon enough. And continuing Xenoblade Chronicles, because that game just does not end. But yes, we will be continuing that. We are right at the end of Chapter 8, it feels like. So anyone who has played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 before, that's where we're at. We're nearing the end of Chapter 8, and I believe the game has 10 chapters. What I was wondering, as I was streaming it yesterday, is Chapter 10 post-game, or is Chapter 10 the last chapter? You know, Do you finish the game? Do you actually finish the game at the end of chapter 10 and then go into post game, or do you finish the game at the end of chapter 9 and then chapter 10 is post game? I would like to know. I would like to know so I can space out the streams correctly. But anyway, that's what we'll be continuing with. So I will leave Monkey Island to loop. So that's what's coming up on the channel. So tomorrow, Monday, either Returnal with Melvin if she's up to it, and if not, Return to Monkey Island. Wednesday, Return to Monkey Island. So we'll either be playing that game twice or once. Either way, we'll definitely be playing it next week. Wednesday, it will be the new Foley Fable, so we'll be playing that basically until I finish it. Thursday, the Wolong Fallen Dynasty demo, which is a Souls-like Sekiro type game. And Friday, Solstice, if I don't have D&D. If I do, there won't be a stream. If I don't, I'm playing Solstice. And Saturday, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Getting close to the end of that, but there's still probably at least 2 more streams left on it. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Let me know if any of those games looked interesting to you, or if I was off the track, or if I said something wrong. Or, if you have a game that I can play as a one-shot, between now and Plague Tale, let me know, etc., etc. Either way, hopefully see some of you tomorrow for either Returnal or Return to Monkey Island. Or Returnal to Monkey Island. That would be a weird game. Anyway, have a good one. I'm going to head off and see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.